I'm Andy Schmuckler. In an earlier video, I don't know, a month and a half ago, I talked about our decision to move in the next couple of years when the right place becomes available to a retirement community. Though we love where we live, which is on the side of a ridge overlooking a valley and a big mountain in the middle of a forest in the western edge of the Shenandoah Valley. We bought this place in 1962. We've lived here more than any place in our lives that we've ever lived, and we love it. And we're still able to hack the life. But we also know that the way things go, our ability to deal with a 3-level house, a spiral staircase on a hillside with gardens that have rock walls that need to be maintained, and pruning and dragging branches down the mountain. All that is not something that we can do forever. And there are reasons why it has made sense to us after struggling with the issue for a long time without getting anywhere. Eventually, I think we've come to a sound decision because there's a place to go to where it won't have all of this. I'm looking out at our gigantic sugar maple, and through that I see the mountain. I mean, it's just, I'm very grateful to have lived here, and I don't want to leave, but that other life looks okay. So that sets a framework for, maybe I shouldn't have gone in that, but that's why we're downsizing. We don't know when we might get a call saying we've got such and such available, and in which case we got a lot of things to do. And so we're going through stuff. We go through boxes of photos and writings, and we've got books. You can see that the bookshelves are, if you've been following me for a while, it used to be full of books, wall to wall. Not room for more books, but now we've done stuff. And I feel like talking, I expect that the difficulty of this is something that a lot of other people can identify with, whether they're going to a retirement community or some other move where you try to go through things and you decide what you can keep and what you can't keep. In our case, it's got to do with we're just going to have a whole lot less room to store anything. And I've explored the idea of renting a locker or something like that. So the things that we don't have room for, but we can't bear to throw out, could be stored in some 5x8 by 10 garage-ish thing. But it really makes no sense. I mean, I did the money, and what it boils down to is you're paying maybe $800 a year for something that you're not making any use of now, and then when you die, your children are just going to throw it out. So why not just throw it out in the first place and not waste what have you got, 20 years, and maybe as much as $20,000 for no good purpose. So it's really not we really have to be somewhat ruthless about this, and you make decisions less perhaps under less compulsion anytime you move. Because do you really want to pay Mayflower by the pound and keep and move all this stuff? Well, anyway, it's not the first time I've been in this position, but it's much more intense now because we're going through basically the memories of our lives. It's got me thinking about the way memory and meaningfulness attach to things. And for example, we have a ladle that was always treated by my mom as an heirloom because it had been her father's and he had died in the flu pandemic, and anything from her father was sort of a kind of icon. What am I supposed to do with that? I mean, it's meaningful to me, because I was my mother's son and she introduced me to it. But I don't think my kids, are going to find anything very meaningful about, Isaac Koppelman came across the Atlantic with this silver silver plated ladle is no great thing. What do you do with things? And even something like a bowl that's a one of a kind that you don't need. But there have been so many times you've sat down with nice food in that bowl and enjoyed it. And even that can be a sort of you attach your memory and your feelings, or at least that's what something that I find that I do. I'm not, it's not easy for me to let go of things. I'm much more of a holder on. And I also have a lot of investment in memory. And I think that's what I think a lot of people have a lot of things to which they've got memories attached. Um, Whether it's, like a souvenir, which is explicitly is about memory, I think. Um, eh, or whether it's just something that that's a piece of what you lived. I mean, April and I are going through these things, and she's finding like feedback from a professor that really liked what she wrote, and there's a glow to that, and picture of herself in the newspaper when she was engaged in some noble public work and holding a press conference. And, what, and then a note from her father from when she was 8 years old, when he said the most loving thing to her. I mean, you just can't throw some of those things out, certainly not the thing from her father. But there are a lot of other things that are kind of ambiguous. How good does it have to be? Is it okay if it's just representative? Um, I, I yesterday went through. I worked at the Center for Strategic and International Studies at the end of the Carter and then the early part of the Reagan administration, and it was a piece of life experience. It was really kind of meaningful to me because I had been in the wilderness forever, and there I was in a kind of a cockpit pit of things at a time when foreign policy was a very, very important. And I was getting into the game when I had been sort of off in the, like I said, off in the wilderness, and I had this role of writing things that. I was being paid to do this. I was writing things up, distilling the wisdom of all the people in the CSIS and calling other people and talking about all the various world developments. And a few of the pieces that I wrote as part of my series, I felt like I got to keep this. I mean, I hope there's room for this because it brought up for me a piece of life that was meaningful. I mean, I can remember back to it, but if I also have the thing, it evokes something. I mean, just like you can put a song on the stereo where you're playing something that resonates to some piece of your life. For example, it seems like it's almost automatic now, and I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to it. But every time I hear, what's his name, Andy Williams, is it singing Moon River? I think about the young lady. We were both high school juniors that I took to see that movie, and wondering, about her. But it's that night. It was a trip of two teenagers to Harvard Square, and to see breakfast at Tiffany's, and then to hear that music. And I wonder to myself, does Peggy think of me when she hears that song? And probably not, because of how selective our memory is of all the things that happen. But anyway, that's what I do. And there's something rich for me. And I'm imagining that in some way everybody else does this too, or at least most people, that there are things that sort of represent in tangible form one's lived experience, and there's something fulfilling for at least for people who are into memory. And I've sort of sensed that people divide on that, but I'm definitely into memory. That that there's something about gathering one's life and all the meaningfulness of it. Like at the end of the movie, Goodbye, Mr. Chips, you see all these, as he's dying, he's seeing these young boys from all the generations that he's taught. Um, and the recapitulation of things. And as you get older, I think the Ericksonian notion of integrity versus despair, there's something about the relationship with one's life, about some kind of ingathering. Now, I feel like if I were spiritually, I don't know, more enlightened, I wouldn't need the things. Um, I would have, but I'm not going to give myself a hard time. It's just, it is nice to have some distillation uh, that reminds one of all the things that one has done earlier in one's movie. And now we're separating the must keeps from, well, don't really need to keep. And it's wrenching. So thank you for listening, and I'll be back.